Gentleman is recognized.
23 days, that is apparently how long it takes for my Republican colleagues to move on from the tragedy of the shooting in Nashville, during which 3 9-year-old children and 3 adults were slaughtered in their school. We were supposed to hold this markup the very next day, but Republicans pulled it down at the last moment, likely knowing how callous it would seem if they decided to proceed with the markup as planned, or maybe thinking that we would forget what took place in Nashville, the country would forget, but we haven't forgotten. The parents and loved ones of those victims haven't forgotten. Evelyn Deekhouse and William Kinney and Haley Scruggs were children. We haven't forgotten them. Now, I've heard several arguments by my colleagues about essentially why we should make it easier to kill children, why we should refuse to take any step to make it more difficult to kill children in a mass shooting like we've seen time after time after time. And let me just see if I can articulate some of those arguments. One is, you don't understand guns. You don't understand guns. Well, I'll tell you this, we understand biology. We understand what a high-capacity round does to a child's body. We understand what multiple rounds of an assault weapon projectile can do to tear flesh from the bone. Isn't that enough understanding? What we don't understand is your blind allegiance to the NRA. What we don't understand is why even the majority of NRA members who support assault weapon bans, why you don't support them. It's not even about the members of the NRA, of course. It's, I guess, about their organizational support or who knows what. We don't understand that blind allegiance to the NRA. Another argument we hear from our colleagues on the other side of the aisle is because the law won't stop all gun violence, it's just not worth doing. If we can't save all lives, it's not worth saving a single life. Well, I suppose that logic works until that single life is your own, or maybe it's your child. But why is it so hard to step into the shoes of someone who's lost a loved one from gun violence? Don't you think we would feel differently if that had happened to one of our family? And finally, we hear the argument that nothing really works. No gun safety laws really work. Nothing works. We're powerless. And so we don't have to do anything. But of course, when you look at other countries that have enacted laws, they have made their people more safe. There's a reason why the United States is alone in the world with the magnitude of gun violence. There are, in fact, things we can do that provably make our country more safe and better protect the lives of our children. We just don't have the will. We just don't have the courage. And so we see gun tragedy after gun tragedy after gun tragedy. Our colleagues say these braces were created to help disabled veterans shoot more easily. That may have been the purpose behind the original brace, but those braces now are modified by manufacturers, transforming a pistol into more concealable and deadly assault weapon. They're used to evade even the most porous of background systems, but even that is not enough. I've introduced legislation to strip away the gun industry's immunity from liability, an immunity that no other industry enjoys. That immunity was extended not just to the industry, but to the NRA itself. But that's too much for my colleagues who think that, no, the gun industry alone ought to enjoy the ability to act negligently without repercussion. I am so sick of seeing these constant tragedies, of seeing these grieving parents. I'm so fed up with the lack of courage here. When one of you accepts the necessity of a ban on assault weapons immediately within days, as our former colleague from near Buffalo was forced to resign or forced to say he wouldn't run for re-election because that was the end of his chances. We could do better this. We have to do better this. I'm sick of doing nothing. I'm sick of thoughts and prayers and the slaughter continues. We are not powerless to do something here. If we had a little courage, we could save lives. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Hunt, is recognized.
Who's right the last word?
Gentleman's recognized.
As a father of 3 young children, I'm deeply wounded by the horrific tragedy that we saw in Nashville. We saw the lives of 6 people taken, 3 young children. The shooting was reported to police at 10:13 a.m., and the suspect was shot by 2 Nashville police officers at 10:27 a.m. This quick response time saved countless lives is a testament to law enforcement, and we thank them every single day. As a congressman, I want to do everything in my power to protect children all around this country from experiencing something like that again. Unlike my colleagues on the left, I'm different, and I think an actual solution to protect our children is not what's being proposed by the left, nor is it political. It is a clear attempt to erode the Second Amendment rights for law-abiding citizens and AR-15 owners like myself. Every time I walk around this Capitol, I feel extremely safe. I've deployed multiple times, I've been on multiple bases. I think to myself, oh my goodness, hot damn. I don't have to really worry about anything because I'm surrounded by people with guns that want to keep me safe. We have barricades, multiple checkpoints, metal detectors. We are staffed by 2 or 4 police officers at all times. All day there was a gentleman standing at this door in case somebody entered this room with a gun. The U.S. Capitol Police is comprised of more than 2,000 officers and over 350 civilian employees who provide operational and administrative support that has an annual budget of approximately $460 million. And for some of my colleagues, that's still not enough because they have their own private security on top of that, surrounded by people that carry guns. And I can assure you that the people here on the Hill are well protected. What about our school children? This is not a round. This is a pen. Now, one of my staffers tried to bring this pen to my office, and he was stopped by a metal detector, and it went through the x-ray machine, and he was almost tackled by our police services right here at the Capitol, doing their jobs, of course. And we proved that, of course, it was a pen. If a pen that looks like this can't get to my office, then how does a homicidal maniac that has weapons walk into a school and arbitrarily murder innocent children? Because we wear this pen, that does not make us more important than our children. There's a private school in Houston, Texas, and I was there a few months ago, and I was giving a young man his appointment to West Point. I drove on the campus, and I was met by 2 armed guards. There were parking places that were just for visitors, and they had even more armed guards beyond that. I felt very secure as I drove onto this school. The headmaster or head of school, she met me in the front, and I said, "My God, ma'am, I feel very secure in this place. What's the secret here?" She said, "Wesley, actually, given my religious beliefs, I hate guns. I don't do guns. But it's my responsibility to keep these young people safe. It's not about how I feel about guns or what I think about them or what I do or don't know. I must keep these children safe because they are the most precious things that we have on this earth." I keep hearing this word AR-15s and a weapon of war. I find that funny because, well, I've been to war. And you should Google the AH-64 Delta Apache helicopter. That is what I would call a true weapon of war. But I feel people calling these things a weapon of war, but they've never been to war and they don't know what war is. And they're using the AR-15 as a scapegoat for everything. I say that because according to the ATF, 6% of homicides are at the hands of AR-15s, 60% at the hands of handguns. So if you really want to have an intellectually honest conversation about homicide reduction, you would go after pistols. But you don't do that because you want to go after the AR-15 first to then eventually get to the pistol to disarm Americans to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. I want you to know something. It ain't the gun. It's the homicidal maniac. The deadliest days in this country, 9/11, not a single shot was fired. Timothy McVeigh, fertilizer, Oklahoma City. The Boston Marathon, pressure cookers, not a single shot was fired. I know what war looks like, but what I do want to say is we have got to agree we can all protect our children, and we should not be protected more than them. And I yield back.
Thank you all for being here today, sir. My condolences to your son. I am very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
We are talking about the consequences of criminal aliens in United States communities. Take a walk around any large city in America and you'll see the devastating effects of these open border policies that we've seen ravage our communities over the course of the past few years. Crime, gang activity, drugs, just to name a few, but there is a far more sinister criminal activity that's not as visible as drug trafficking, gang activity, or just the general degradation of our cities. It's far worse, actually, far worse to me. It's human trafficking. I love my city of Houston. Houston is known as the energy capital of the world. It's known as a lot of great things, great food as well, but unfortunately, we're also known as the human trafficking capital of the world as well, and that has to change. I can tell you I'm very proud to co-sponsor a bill introduced by my colleague Sheila Jackson Lee. It's called the Stop Human Trafficking in School Zones Act. This bipartisan effort is necessary because that's how bad the problem is. This bill will increase the prison time up to 5 years for certain human trafficking offenses and sex offenses involving minors that occur within 1,000 feet of schools, within 100 feet of certain other places where children gather, like youth centers and swimming pools. As a father of 3 children under the age of 5, these people belong in a special place in hell, if you ask me. In 5 years, it's not enough, but it's a start. One thing that I do know is that if President Biden and the Democrat governors and mayors were serious about human trafficking, they'd stop their destructive sanctuary city policies. And you, gentlemen, have addressed this pretty clearly to me. Mr. Fabricatore, thank you for being here, sir. I met you earlier in the hallway. I have a question for you, sir. In your 23 years of experience working at INS and ICE, what can you tell me about the seriousness of child trafficking, what have you personally experienced as a result of the issues that we have seen with our open border policies?
Well, number one, I mean, they stopped the DNA testing at the border. So, we were testing adults to see if they had a DNA match with children. That policy has stopped, and I cannot figure out for the life of me why you would not want to figure out if a child that is being brought into the United States actually belongs to the adult that they're traveling with. But now we've stopped that, so now we're allowing these people to bring these children into the interior, and we have no idea who they belong to. We have no idea if there's a familial connection. This is wrong, and it needs to stop. We have children being brought in, and we have children missing right now. We don't even know where they are because they've been brought in and they've either absconded, they've gone off. They're being used to traffic drugs. Myself, in my career, I've arrested juveniles dealing heroin on jogging paths. So these juveniles are being used by the cartels to deal drugs, and they're being brought into this country. And the fact that we stopped the DNA program, this administration stopped it, it's unfathomable to me.
Do you agree that child sex trafficking as a result of this crisis at our southern border has increased?
Yes, sir, I do.
Without equivocation?
No, yep, I agree.
Biden's policies they've resulted in countless numbers of minors being abused and bussed across our border and sold into sex slavery. Under the guise of protecting illegal aliens, the Biden administration is in fact protecting human traffickers and harming God's children, our children. Now, many of my colleagues on the left may say that we are unfairly targeting illegal aliens and that American citizens commit crimes too. I've also heard racism being blamed and xenophobia being blamed. And I could tell you, as a black man for a very long time, I am not racist nor xenophobic. I just want us to enforce our laws, and I expect them to be abided by so we could save our children. I've also heard some of my colleagues on the left say that the global sex trafficking of children is a QAnon conspiracy. According to the New York Times, 85,000 migrant children that's entered our country have been lost. They've been vanished. And where do you think they went? You know exactly where they went. And what's happening is grotesque, it is wrong, and if we can't protect our children, if we can't protect the world's children, then we absolutely have no future. I cannot thank you enough for being here. I cannot thank you enough for your hard work and your sacrifice. Sir, we will do better because we have to. Thank you for all your efforts.